anything before that time. And that's so crucial because on days when I don't do that routine, I struggle with this on weekends, for instance. I say, oh, I'll meditate later. I'll do that in the afternoon. I got the stuff I've got to handle first in the morning. The odds that it's actually going to happen start to decrease exponentially. And if I've gotten to noon and it hasn't happened, it's probably not going to happen. It's probably not despite my best intentions, it's just probably it's not going to work. So yeah, the regularity for me and having sort of a thing that I do again and again and again, rather than changing all the time. That's to me the only thing I've been able to make work. And with the rest of it, I haven't quite figured it out. I also found I stole this from a few people, but I find that writing things out the night before. So putting out a little list of, okay, tomorrow I'm going to accomplish the following goals, X, Y, Z. I've written it out the night before, sort of planting the seed. Then I get up in the morning. I'm looking at that list when I start to hit my work day. And then I know I've got to accomplish A, B, C. Boom.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah, that works for me. So, and then I struggle with that. And I would imagine so many people listening to this struggle with those things as well. It's huge.
Is there a process that you know now that you wish you'd known earlier?
Earlier, I don't know. I don't look back and I guess I don't frame my life in that way. I look at it as sort of all unfolded as it was supposed to unfold. So yeah, I mean, I could say, well, boy, I wish at 18 I had known this, or at 25 I had done this habit, or something different. But I don't know. I think I learned things when they were right for me. When I sort of adopted practices and did different things when the timing was right for me. And so you mentioned at the beginning of the interview, you talked about my car accident and the perspective that I gained from that. And when I heard you read that, I sort of laughed to myself. I thought, well, it makes it sound like I woke up the next day and realized, like, hey, I'm grateful for this, and now I'm going to change my life. And I think those things, that perspective, that wasn't gained for many years. I had the sense that I felt lucky that I had escaped being dead, and maybe I'm, in a bonus round. I guess that's how I always look at it. I'm sort of here in the bonus round. I should make the best of my bonus round, and brings up questions of, well, why? Was I saved for a reason, or was it random? Was there a higher power at work here? Depending on your personal religious, spiritual, philosophical beliefs. You ask yourself those questions. And so, but those answers didn't come in a day or a month or a year. They came in 10 years, in 15 years. And so they were always there. And I guess in some ways they were always framing what I did with my life. But, it didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen right away. And so, I don't look back and say I would really change anything. I think that things sort of happened as they did. And I'm at peace with that. And I try to be at peace with all of that. The things I'm doing now. When I look back 10 years from now, I'll look back and say, wow, amazing. We're, sort of gone from here all the way over to here. Who knew? Who could have predicted that that's where life would have led me?
I think we often look at our lives as if we could take where we are now, project a dot somewhere out there, and make it as straight a line as possible and make it make sense. But it seems that it doesn't really make sense until we're there and we look back on the trail to get a sense of why it means what it means, or to have the significance.
Yeah.
In a sense, we try to have significance, it seems, in front of us, or make it have significance where it doesn't really add up till after we've looked back on it.
Yeah.
You were touching on daily rituals earlier, and I just was wondering if you had anything else to add to habits of nourishing creativity, so that when you've had a setback, you can come back and not only survive, but thrive because of it.
Yeah, sure. So for me, number one by far on the list is any sort of mind-body practice, which is huge. So I, 7+ years ago, discovered Kundalini yoga and meditation. I had always been curious about yoga. I always, what is this yoga thing? People seem to love it. It's got obvious benefits for the people that do it. And the irony is that when I was in the most stressful jobs of my life, I wasn't practicing yoga, and I could have really used it. And I didn't really start practicing until after I had started to switch over into the way my life's configured now, which is far less stressful than some of those jobs that I had earlier in my life. And so I discovered this practice, this amazing practice with this technology that's thousands of years old that was brought to the United States. And, whether it's Kundalini yoga or any other form of yoga or any other mind body practice, having something that allowed me to de-stress and allowed me to let things go. The particular type of yoga that I practice, it's focused on a lot of breath work, on a lot of I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. It's an in the body experience. It's a very tactile and very um, it's something you sort of have to do. It's hard to describe orally, but when you try it out, you just find that it allows you to be in a place, in a conscious place that is different from when you started it. And it has. It's changed my life. It's changed my consciousness. It's changed the way I've been able to handle and react to things in that time. And so I have that as a practice that's generally about twice a week for 7 years. And then I'm also a meditator. Beyond that, I have an additional daily meditation practice in the morning. I meditate for 20 minutes. And I just think that the combination of the two are so invaluable because you're almost building up this reserve that things are going to happen to you in life and you can't change that. And it doesn't mean that when those things happen to you, you're going to be able to handle them in the most positive way every time, but it allows you to frame them differently. It allows you to pause when those things are happening. It allows you to, in the moment, be handling them in a different way, I find. I've sort of built up this reserve, and it's really changed my perspective on everything. And I just think it's the greatest gift. And I would query my guest on Radio Enzo. I haven't done this recently on Life on Purpose. I should probably get back to this as a fun little exercise. I would try to discern what were the commonalities among all of my guests on the show in 150 interviews. And I found two that were the most common. And almost every one of my guests on Radio Enzo shared these traits. And number one was that travel was somehow part of their lives. So either the fact that they traveled and it expanded their worldview, or they wanted to travel and it drove them, or somehow travel or expanding their horizons, that was part of the equation in the work that they did or in their lives. It wasn't necessarily part of their work, but it was part of their lives in some way. And the second was having some sort of mind-body practice. Whether you're doing Tai Chi or meditating or yoga, or having some sort of practice that allowed you to come back, to ground yourself, to come back to your true self underneath all the noise. So many of my guests were meditators or had some sort of practice like that. And many people that I would have not predicted had such a practice. They don't publicly talk about these things. They don't. They're not into sort of waving the flag of "Look at me, I'm a meditator." But so yeah, that I think that's crucial for me.
Who are some people that are either doing work right now that you have your eye on, or, and when I say work, I put it in the context, they're making a difference, they're having an impact in the world. Who are some people that are inspiring you?
Well, I've been fortunate enough to surround myself or sort of dive into a few different communities of people that do just that. And so, you and I share some of this. One of them is the WDS crowd, Chris Guillebeau's community that he's created around his conference that happens every year in Portland. And then one of them is the Good Life Project crowd that Jonathan Fields has created around his work. And so both of those are communities in which I've met a ton of people that are just doing tremendous work and living as examples for me. And then that's really what it's all about as a human being, as an entrepreneur, as all the different hats and roles that I wear in my life. I'm finding people that are just sort of shining examples in all of those areas that are doing things the way that I want to do myself, or that I want to be around and share with those sort of people. And one of the humans who was in both of those crowds that I met through one and sort of led me to the other, and he's become a real friend in real life. And he's just doing tremendous work is our mutual friend, Christopher Carter, KC.
Right.
From This Epic Life. He also works for the Good Life Project. He's created a program at his company called Centro, which is the pause. He's introduced mindfulness and meditation into a large corporate environment. He speaks. He's a teacher, and he's a guy that just lives it by example every single day. He's out there just doing it. He's doing the work. And flaws and all. He writes about it. He talks about it. He's always on Facebook or social media, sort of commenting on the things that are happening in his life. And I love KC because he's creating a new model for me. He's creating a new example of how we can be in the world. And I find that it's especially difficult for men. Find that women in personal development, they have many models and many people being examples for them. And I find that men don't have that many models. People saying, well, you know what, we can be this way in the world. And it's a little different maybe than the traditional model. But I love the fact that Casey's he's a husband and a father and a creative and a entrepreneur and a meditator and a yogi, and all of these things. And yet he's a bass player. He's a rock musician. He's toured the United States in a ska band. He's done all these creative endeavors. He's not some square guy that you'd think sitting around his. He's a fascinating cat who brings together all the things into one amalgam. And I just think that he's a true shining example, and I'm very lucky to call him a friend as well. So, and he's one of many people that I've been fortunate enough to meet that are doing this through these communities. And so, I think that it's really crucial, Charles, that people find a community of people, whether it's one of those two communities or something else out there, that the other people in that community are doing work or living life in a way that resonates with them, and surrounding yourself. Find your tribe. I mean, it's so crucial right now. We have the ability, we have the technology, Charles, to find our tribe. It's the first time in human history that we get to choose our own tribe. We're not limited by where we grew up or where we went to school or where we went to college or what job we're in. We can go out and find our tribe. They're there, and you can connect with them. So go find your tribe.
Yeah, you don't have to wait to be chosen anymore.
No,
there
we don't.
A number of books and the awareness now that you can go out and make choices. This is a two-part question. I'll kind of merge it together here for you. Since the name of your show is called Life on Purpose, you ask your guests each week, what does a life on purpose mean to you? So I'm going to throw that back at you. Let you have a chance to talk about what a life on purpose means to you and combine that in to what you want to be remembered for.
Easy questions, right? Yes, indeed.
We'll wade into the shallow here.
We'll start in the shallow end before we go into the deep end. So, all right. Well, another one of the concepts that I'm also stealing from one of my past radio show guests that I've really come to believe in, I've come to adopt, is that this notion that in either a practical sense or maybe a metaphysical or spiritual sense, that we each are here to teach that thing that we most need to learn. That's something we should all ponder, because when I look at the work that I do and the work that each of us is doing, I find it to be true. And so at some point, I guess I realized that I needed to live my own life more on purpose. I was sort of unconscious, if you will, in aspects of my life, and still am. None of us are. I'm not perfect. I don't have all this figured out. I'm on a journey, and I'm trying to figure all these things out myself. So I'm trying to figure out how to live my own life on purpose and live the various aspects of my life on purpose. And so I bring in guests who have these conversations each week about how to do that in different areas in their life. And I'm learning from them, and hopefully my listeners are learning from them. And, hopefully we're applying these concepts to our life. We're taking these things. And so, yeah, for me, living a life on purpose is about being aware, having a self-awareness of what I'm doing in each area, and then at some point deciding either that's acceptable or no, I want something different. I'm going to take action towards a change, and how am I going to do that? What are the steps needed, and how do I go about making that change? And so that's a multi-step process, starting with the self-awareness and then moving into action. And so, yeah, that's, for me, life on purpose is, 10 years ago, me realizing that I ate horribly. I put really nasty things into my body, chemicals and bad things. And I had already started to make a change. I stopped drinking soda nearly 20 years ago. But I was still putting a lot of bad stuff in my body, so I cleaned it up. And I stopped eating meat. 10 years ago. And so I'm a pescatarian. I eat fish, not meat. And so I tried to cut out processed sugars and tried to cut out processed flour when I can and, do different things. So that was my